really shines. And we've talked about this. We've addressed this on multiple occasions where, XRP right now, we talk about how XRP is perfectly positioned. It really is. Think about what's happening around crypto right now. Institutional grade adoption, institutional DeFi, payments, stablecoins, all of these things, it's all what XRP has been doing for quite some time, right? Ripple has been utilizing the XRP ledger and tapping into XRP for these types of use cases for so long. They've been really focused on the institutional side of the market before it was even like a big deal, right? Going all the way back to 2016, 2017. So if we're thinking about that, who has the upper hand here? Well, it's Ripple, right? They're so far ahead. This is why XRP is perfectly positioned. This is why when we think about what's happening around this space, it's very hard not to think that XRP has that, front runner advantage to it. Now, let's actually talk about the market just slightly, because if we're looking at XRP today, $2.80, not a huge change at all in terms of the chart. However, I will say, going off of the chart, we are looking at some higher lows here. We still need to see some higher highs. I would love to see on the monthly us actually break over about $3.08 or so. And even then, we still want to really see a big break above like about $3.10 with a nice weekly candle close above those levels. But, XRP still looks very good here if we're looking at the yearly. No major change at all. We are in, sort of a bull flag formation here. And as long as we squeeze here and consolidate a bit more, I could easily see $4 plus on this next move, being, something that we target. Now, are we just thinking about $4 being the main target here? No, absolutely not. I think that once we break over $4, XRP is going to go on another crazy run, just like it did back here in the beginning of November when we went from, 50 cents all the way to about $3.40. So, maybe, from our current level, I could easily see us having a nice like 3x push to the upside. And, if we're thinking about that, that's almost, a $10 plus XRP. And that's definitely possible. But we need to be very cautious here, and we need to make sure that we're focused on the catalyst behind XRP. I know that we've been talking about ETFs, we've been talking about institutional DeFi, we've been talking about, institutional adoption, maybe even some announcements that have yet to hit the market. We recently talked about the Thunes one with Ripple. That was definitely a big one, and I feel like that was kind of that confirmation that, guess what, some of these NDAs that we kind of speculated on being out there, well, guess what, they are out there. And also, now that the lawsuit is over, we're starting to see them really, get announced, which, again, it's kind of crazy to think that almost everything that we've been saying for so long, it's really happening. It really is happening. So it's kind of crazy, but hey, we love to see it. Now, in terms of the market, right, if we're talking about some higher targets for XRP, when will they hit? Well, if we're looking at the market has been kind of just cooling off a bit, while gold goes on a crazy, this is a crazy run for gold. Gold is on track for its 6th consecutive green day, its longest winning streak since March. Now, this is also another reason why when we think about, crypto, this is why crypto has been so boring lately. It's because all eyes are on gold. They're on either, gold or stocks at this time. And we're just kind of waiting for these markets to cool off a little bit, just like gold cooled off back in March, which led to the markets around crypto bottoming in April and then going on a crazy run. So now we're just waiting on gold to get a little bit more boring, maybe consolidate a little bit more. And then also stocks, right? Like with stocks are about to make a new all-time high. Today was an incredible day for the S&P. We went from, 6445 to 6500. We love to see that. I think that the next target here will be 6551. After that, 6960. We will probably break $7,000 before the end of the year, which, if we're thinking about that, hey, that's a very solid run for the S&P. And if we're thinking about crypto, the question here is, what does crypto do? Because we have to play catch up now. We have to play catch up to the S&P. We also have to play catch up to gold, because both of these are going insane. I mean, commodities in general, we know gold and even silver has been going insane lately. So now we're just watching as Bitcoin and crypto catches up to some of these other markets. Now, I do think that crypto is about to get that big wake-up call, just like I said in the beginning of this video, from the US government. We have over here, this is from Walter Bloomberg. US Federal Reserve announces October 21st conference on payments innovation. The Fed says conference will discuss stablecoins, artificial intelligence, and tokenization of financial products and services. The fact that we have the Federal Reserve now talking about stablecoins, AI, tokenization, I mean, you got to wake me up, because this kind of feels as though we are in, some sort of dream scenario. Because if you go back a couple years ago, these types of announcements would never have existed. This shows you that we are making tremendous amounts of progress around crypto. Again, it goes back to even this new admin with all of the pro discussions with the SEC, with the CFTC. I mean, even signing bills. I mean, guys, 2025, it's hard not to say that 2025 is the year where everything changed for crypto, because it really is. I mean, we now have the Fed holding a conference on payments innovation with all of the things that we address on this channel being included in it. Now, again, just like I said in the beginning of this video, it goes back to even July, right? July is when we got the Genius Act signed into law. The reason why that they signed this into law is because of how big stablecoins are becoming. Back in June, there was a great article written by ARK Invest, which was stablecoins could become one of the US government's most resilient financial allies. And that's because if we look at the facts here, since January of this year, the supply of stablecoins has surged more than 20% to $247 billion. If we're thinking about this, let's just go real quick over to, I just want to go check out ROUSD, because I know ROUSD has been growing, 709 million. But just going off of stablecoins alone, guys, stablecoins are almost about to cross the $300 billion mark here, which is extremely significant, especially when we think about the fact that back in June, they were at $247 billion. We've added almost $50 billion to the stablecoin market cap in just the last 3 months, roughly. Now, it also surpassed 1% of the US M2 money supply, which is very significant to focus on. And if we're thinking about how big stablecoins will be in the coming years, I mean, just take a quick look at who's talking about stablecoins. It's not just retail. It's not just crypto companies. It's literally the US Fed. The US Fed is talking about stablecoins. The US government is talking about stablecoins. The president's talking about stablecoins. The Treasury's talking about stablecoins. Everyone now cannot stop talking about stablecoins. So if you're thinking about, a number in your head, oh, maybe 1 trillion, maybe 2 trillion, whatever it is, think much bigger, because again, stablecoins are now a legitimate piece of the global financial system. Now, on top of this, we also have an update, because again, the Genius Act was definitely big, but this is what the US is now starting to prepare. We have here, scoop, I'm hearing the Senate Banking Committee is aiming as early as today to release its updated draft of market structure legislation reflecting feedback from RFIs submitted before the August recess. Now, we didn't get this today, but it seems as though we could probably get a big update by the end of this week, which, tomorrow will definitely be, today, tomorrow, right? Friday, will definitely be the day that we see something if we're going to see it this week. If not, the next week we should see something around this market structure legislation. And the reason why I say that is because of this video here. And this is from the Financial Services GOP. We have Chairman Rep. French Hill on digital asset market structure. The Clarity Act in the House, which I wrote, got 78 Democrat votes here in the House. We got such overwhelming support by Democrats and Republicans. I would hope that the Senate would consider taking up the Clarity Act in their process and simply make improvements to it. Check it out, guys. This is about a 4-minute long clip. I know it's a little bit lengthy, but listen closely to what's being said here and what's happening around the digital asset space in the US.
Mr. Chairman, let me get your take on the digital assets legislation. You just mentioned the Genius and Clarity Acts. The Senate Banking Committee still discussing the framework for that Clarity Act. Senator Tim Scott chairs the committee, and he said that he believes there will be between 12 to 18 Democrats open to voting for a market structure on digital assets. How are you expecting this to play out?
Well, I really enjoyed working with Kirsten Gillibrand and Cynthia Lummis, both who've been real leaders. Chairman Tim Scott in the Senate has put together a working group on the digital assets framework. The Clarity Act in the House, which I wrote, got 78 Democrat votes here in the House. Back in July, we sent that to the Senate with really a suspension level vote. We got such overwhelming support by Democrats and Republicans. I would hope that the Senate would consider taking up the Clarity Act in their process and simply making improvements to it. I think that would be a great approach. But Tim Scott and his working group and the leadership of Subcommittee Chair Lummis and John Bozeman on the Ag Committee, they all have this at a top priority, and I hope we can get this done in the next few weeks.
Let me get your take on what Larry Lindsay says about this, Mr. Chairman, because the Lindsay Group out with a report saying widespread crypto adoption is not without consequence. And the firm writes that the ramifications of the Federal Reserve losing its semi-monopoly status as the supplier of money has wide implications that are often not discussed. At the Kansas City Fed Jackson Hole Symposium that I was at last week with Christine Lagarde, a lot of people were talking about this, including Fed Governor Mickey Bowman. And Mickey Bowman said she called digital assets a seismic shift in the way we think about money, value, and the fabric of our financial system. She said that if the Fed is unable to adjust to this new technology, it will bypass the traditional banking system. What do you want to say to people who are worried that if the depositors flee to blockchain, the cheap source of bank funding disappears, and it has a real impact on the banks?
Well, I think banks will offer dollar-backed stable coins as a new payment rail.
I just want to pause it real quick because did you just hear that? He believes that banks will offer stablecoins as a deposit rail. That is an absolute massive insight if true. This would be crazy.
Through their corporate treasury functions for businesses, and they'll offer it to consumers that have a demand for it. It's not widely accepted at the point of sale. So I think that's a long-term, thoughtful position to take and think about the risk of that. But I anticipate a dollar-backed payment stablecoin being used mostly for cross-border trade. They don't pay interest. It's not meant to be a bank. It's a payment rail, like we use credit, debit, we send wire transfers, we use cash. A dollar-backed payment stablecoin is simply a new payment method, not a complete change in trying to make a stablecoin and turn a bank. Plus, those stablecoin issuers have to keep their assets in a bank or in treasury bills.
I love the idea, really, especially given what Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has said, and that is that it becomes a major purchaser of short-term treasury bills as a result of all of that. What do you make of an ECB-run digital euro? I mean, Christine Lagarde told me she's working on this, even though there are lots of, upset over it because people think it's going to be a surveillance tool. But that also has downsides, right? Lack of financial freedom, privacy, surveillance issues, systemic risk, being European, all issues that, again, the Lindsay Group brings up.
I just met in Europe last week with the Bank for International Settlements in Basel. I also met with the financial regulators in Switzerland and in Germany, including a long meeting at the European Central Bank, the ECB, and listened to their presentation of what they're trying to propose for a retail CBDC in Europe. In other words, a digital euro.
Right.
I think in America, we've gone with the private sector. And in Europe, they're considering a government-driven process. And I made the point in those meetings that I think a private sector solution is better, more effective, and
a private sector initiative is way better. This means players like Ripple, Circle, even Tether But we already know that Ripple is far ahead of all of the competition. So I'm really putting my chips on the table for Ripple here, not, Tether or Circle. And by the way, looking at the screenshot here real quick, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP. We love to see XRP being spotlighted on Fox, because typically they throw like a third random cryptocurrency on the board instead of actually putting a spotlight on XRP. So love to see that, but let me play the rest of this clip real quick.
Response to consumer choice, I'm not sure consumers will find a digital euro, as acceptable as a private sector alternative.
So yeah, I mean, listen, at the end of the day, we do know that these players like Ripple have the upper hand. I don't think that we are going to be putting a lot of weight behind government initiatives, which is why I keep saying that public blockchain adoption in the US is going to ignite more than ever before. And also, I do think that this is going to accelerate all of the initiatives around the world as well to really move forward with public blockchains. So the EU will most likely have to, say at some point in time, oh, well, you know what, we're looking at, public blockchains, or at least private players like Ripple or Circle or whatever the case may be. And this is what I'm really kind of looking at being the next big push for this entire space. I really do think that this entire space is going to wake up in a much larger way. And over time, I think that we're going to witness that, 2025 definitely was the spark that lit the flame, that just continued to spread more and more and more. This is going to bring trillions of dollars into the industry. This is going to wake up the entire industry. And the Clarity Act really is the last major piece of the puzzle to fall into place, because the second that we have the Clarity Act passed along with the Genius Act, guess what? There's no obstacle at all for big banks, institutional players, enterprise players to dive on into crypto, adopt these networks, utilize these networks at scale. And I'm very excited about this. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on, because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been